Hello, and welcome to the overview of RoadBehind. In this survival risk management game, you and your child travel south along a winding road, avoiding dangerous people and inhospitable places, rummaging for food and shelter among the ruins, looking for a latitude where the disaster hasn't reached, on which you, and especially the kid, can start a new life. You start the game at the entrance of the complex where you spent the past 5 years after the fallout. The planet's ecology has been obliterated, and you realize that it's not safe to be by yourself, raising a toddler. You pack a few items, what little food you have left, and start your journey. Managing the risk of events along the road is a critical part of the game. The other is choosing wisely between comfort and progress, when to hide, when to rest, and when to push forward toward the end of the road and safety. Each turn, you get a number of actions, initially 5, in the form of action cards, which also represent your and your kid's health. Your health is yellow, the kid's is purple. Spending one action, you can walk the distance of one road card, which is the main goal of the game. Every time you're on the road, however, the risk of encountering different events rises. This is represented by these icons. For every icon on a road card, the corresponding event tracks advance one space. As you advance, the type of road will change. Depending on the type of road, you can perform different actions. In the flatlands, you can spend 2 actions to skip the event icons of the first road and advance to the second. Since you can always see the road that's coming ahead, you can anticipate what's coming and try to plan accordingly. In a town, when there's a shelter icon indicating so, you may rummage, and potentially get one item for each action spent. You draw one card at a time when searching. If you get an empty card, you have to discard it. This also increases the risks according to the events icon on these cards, since you're making noise and showing movement while searching for useful stuff. You can stop rummaging at any point or keep going until you get an actual item. If you get trash, you can keep it as your one item and stop the search, or you can choose to also discard it. Again, each discarded card will rise the event tracks indicated. If you decide to keep going, when you get an actual item, you can keep it. You can carry up to 5 at any point, each with its own ability. I will spend the last of my actions to move along the road again. When you're out of actions, the day is over. First, you draw new action cards according to the morale track. Right now, it's still at 5. Then, you need to have some food from your reserve. Move the food track one space to the left. Then, you draw a new weather card from the deck. This deck represents not only the changes in weather, but also the time passing. If this deck runs out before you reach the end of the road, you lose the game. Apply the change on the temperature track. Then, on each weather card, there might also be some event icons. You must rise the risk one space for each icon on the card. Like with the road, you can also see the next card ahead to aid in your plans. You're in a desperate position and the world around you is bleak. Every night, your morale diminishes a bit. Remember, this can affect how many actions you will have the next day. Now it's a new day and I'm in a forest. Since there's a one shelter icon, I can use one action to hide. Each time you hide, you can reset one of the event tracks. If the tracker is past the hashed space, it resets to it. Otherwise, it resets all the way down. Since I don't want dangerous people around, I will spend the action to reset that track. Sadly, I cannot reset the risk of sickness, since there is only one action, and I can see the next road will make this event reach the top. I could spend the rest of my turn here and use the one hide action again next turn, but that would waste time and actions, and I want to keep moving. Because of this, I spend one action to move to the next road and update the events according to the icons on the card. This triggers the event since this track is at the top. At this point, I check the number on the corresponding icon and place the token on the right side of the board at the indicated number. On the line below this track, it indicates the strength of the event. That is, how bad it is, or how good in the case of the two bottom tracks. In this case, it indicates that I lose 2 health because of this event. This means that I have to discard 2 of my action cards, either from my hand, from the top of the spent actions pile, or blindly by drawing a card from the deck. When discarding action cards, you also need to apply the event icons. Because this event is also close to being triggered, I don't want to risk discarding blindly, so I discard this top card from the spent actions pile. But also, I don't want to discard the second one, since it has that icon, so I choose a card from my hand to discard. This costs me an action this turn, but avoids a cascading event. I can discard this one relatively safely. After triggering an event, you can optionally read a blurb describing the event from the book. In this case, E8. After that, I return the token to the marked space on the left track. Because this is a new road and a new shelter, I can spend one more action resetting the sickness event track all the way to be safer. For my last action, I will rest. This lets me rise the morale level so I can keep my number of actions next turn. It's the end of the day, so we go through the same routine. Draw a new hand of actions, get some food, and update the weather. Now, because the temperature has dropped and I didn't get shelter, the temperature track indicates I must lose 1 health. I have the same options as before, either discard from my hand from the top of the spent actions pile or blindly draw from the deck. In this case, I will choose the top spent card. Finally, my morale goes down again. The road splits here, and I can see there's a mountain ahead. I will use one action to move to that road, and then another action to choose the mountain path. All the other paths on each fork get 1 card tucked under. Every icon, of course, gets applied. Now that I am on the mountains, and I can see that the weather will not get better, I use one action to increase my shelter by 1. This will counter the 1 health that I would lose for the weather. I could potentially spend 2 actions to get 2 shelter because the shelter shows a 2. But because the track is reset each turn, and I will only need 1 shelter, this would waste the action. Since the special actions depend on the current road type and it's currently mountains, I cannot hide to reset this track that is looking bad. However, I can push forward at any time by actually discarding 1 action card from my hand instead of spending it. With this, I can perform any of the special actions. In this case, hiding to reset the track. As with any time I discard an action card, after this I have to apply its icons, so I'll choose this action card to discard. I'll use my last action to move forward on the road. It's the end of the day, so I have to do the same as usual. I draw my new hand, eat some food, and update the weather. As noted before, because of the temperature, I would receive 1 damage now. But because I have 1 shelter, the damage gets countered, and I simply move the track down 1 space. After that, I lower my morale and start the next day. Since I've lost a few health, I decide now to have a long rest. I can spend 4 actions to recover 2 action cards from the discard onto my spent pile. Since my morale is low, which would make me only have 4 cards in hand next turn, I will spend my last action on a short rest also, to increase my morale by 1. Now, I can also see that my food reserve is very low. If I leave it like that, at the end of the day after eating, I would receive 1 damage. Luckily, I've been carrying around this food item, so I discard it to rise my food reserve. As with any discarded items, I must now apply the event icons. And this is the end of the day. No progress, but I'm well rested. I draw my new hand of action cards. Then have some food and update the weather. I could see the weather was getting better, so I didn't need to worry about shelter. Finally, I lower my morale. Next day, I move forward using 1 action. With this, I can see that the next road is a dead end. When I move into it, I will have to go back. I spend 1 action to get into it. At this point, my only option to move is to spend 2 actions to go back to the previous fork. All the road cards except the dead end get added to the bottom of the deck, and this road is marked with the dead end card. I can choose either of the other 2 paths. To do that, I put the selected path on top and apply the event icons. This card is an uphill road, therefore I would need 2 actions to move forward, so I will spend my last action rummaging, since it's a town. I get lucky and draw an item on the first attempt. It's a piece of wood. This would usually require 1 action to rise the shelter, which I will need because the weather is turning bad. But because I'm also carrying an axe, I can use the wood for 0 actions. Discarding this wood caused the bit track to reach the top. However, the icon is B0. Therefore, I move the token to the 0 and get no effect by it. You can still read the event's blurb describing what happened. It's the end of the day, so I draw my hand. It's only 4 actions now. I probably need to work on my morale. I eat some food, also getting low, and update the weather. Again, I would get 1 damage because of this, but I also have 1 shelter from the wood. Finally, my morale goes even lower, ready for the next day. We've seen most, if not all, of the available actions in the game, and have an idea of the flow. So far, these have been 5 turns, which is 1/3 of the weather deck. Things are not looking great. Many events are high, the weather is bad. I don't have much food and have lost some health. My morale is low. However, I can spend a couple turns doing damage control and getting it back in track. Doing the right moves at the right time, I can manipulate how badly events triggered and get the most benefit from the 2 good tracks. This means I don't have to necessarily spend actions resetting tracks if I know when to let things trigger. The game continues like that until one of 3 things happen. You lose if at the end of your turn there are no more weather cards. You have basically run out of time, and lost and desperate, you become careless. You also lose if at any point you must discard the last kid action card, even if you have other actions left on your deck. There's no point in keeping on going if your only reason to survive and fight is gone. But if you manage to reach the last card in the road deck, including the cards that you added from the dead ends, you win the game. You're finally in a safe place, the weather is much better here, and there's good people around. I hope you enjoyed this overview, and it helps you learn how to play the game. Thanks for watching!